our session is open. To recap a bit about what happened in the month of May, before I bring the president and the president-elect to open the session, I'd just like to give you a brief update of what had been happening in the back end. We held a NAPE Fellows Retreat. As you know, the fellows are the caliber of most prestigious people in our organization, of course, after the Ben Osuno Award. And a lot of insightful recommendations came from that, and you'll be seeing a lot of activities, especially as we have key action items to take on and build NAPE into the institution that we would want to be a part of in the now and in the future. I'd like to invite the president to open the session, followed by the president-elect, and then we'll share the agenda for the meeting. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, most esteemed NAPE members, the AC members, and our BOT members, and of course the NAPE Fellows, you are all welcome to today's meeting. I am extremely delighted that we have a sponsor in the caliber of Total, who is giving us a paper that takes us to the root cause of geoscience. Why are we here? What are we doing? I look forward to an exciting time. I'm sure I'm going to be taking a lot of notes. And the beauty of having this session on Zoom is that it's recorded. So even if any one of us needs to get a reference material from me with proper permissions, it can be arranged. So please enjoy. Welcome. Back to you, Bosun.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Dr. James Edits, over to you.
Thank you very much, BS. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another session. So let me say, President of NAPE, Lady Pat Ochogu, members of the Executive Committee of NAPE, the fellows of NAPE, and the members, you're all welcome. Today's topic, as we can see, understanding turbiditic systems for hydrocarbon development. I am excited because I know the young man who's going to present this started his career working with me very closely. And I'm sure that you're going to hear some things today that maybe will refocus our what we are really trying to achieve in terms of the energy mix. Today, everybody says Nigeria should be a gas province, but we are always exploring for oil, only to have gas as an appendage to that. Nobody really takes the time to explore for gas. So let's see what new things are coming up. And I also welcome the chairman of the occasion for graciously accepting to chair this occasion. Thank you very much, Sir Joe Ejedawe F. NAPE. And I welcome everybody to sit back, listen, and enjoy this session. And of course, to my company that's sponsoring this, a big thank you to Total. Thank you very much. Bosun, over to you.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome. Members, today's event is packed. We would like to implore that beyond the technical session being sponsored by Total, that you will crave your indulgence to please wait. We have a lot of announcements, and these are not just mere announcements. They're activities that your executives, your trusted experts are working on, and we would like that you be a part of it from end to finish. Lawrence, can you please share the agenda for the day, please? Okay, while that is coming up. Okay, while that is coming up, Lawrence, you need to communicate to us. Let's know what the status of that is. I like to ask that to engage is also to know. The reason why we have embraced the hybrid events is actually for us to connect better. We would like to implore and ask that you please use the chat button to network with your friends, your colleagues, your acquaintances that you may not have seen in a while. When we get to the technical session bits, please use the Q&A to ask your questions. We will be taking off questions from there. We recognize that some may want to ask their questions verbally. If we have the time, we will take it, but our first preference is that you please use the chats or the Q&A button. We'll be looking in those places. To open today's event, I would like to play a video. I would like to play a video from Total, who is our sponsor organization today. And we'd just like you to be encouraged to see what this organization is doing in Nigeria for our organization, for our industry, and importantly, for even members that are in that organization. So please go ahead and play the video. Can we have the video? Okay, Lawrence, you need to communicate. Do you have a technical issue? It's okay to have. Can we have the video now? Okay, we can take the video later. Can we have the agenda then? And you please share the agenda as it is. So I think we'll just give this some time because again, this is internet and these are some of the things that we have no control around. So if you communicate with us, Lawrence, if you can hear us, to let us know what's going on at your end, that would be appreciated. Sunday, if you can as well, let us know what is happening so we can progress the meeting early. Can anyone hear me? Just to be sure I'm not beyond Tunde and Lawrence. Please, can anyone hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay,
I can hear you. And okay. Tunde and Lawrence are working in the background. They will soon be on.
Okay. So I wanted to share the agenda, but in the absence of that, I would like to call on the Chair Electoral Committee, who would speak to us very quickly about the new deadline set for the NAPE elections. Is Mrs. Opade on the line? Please confirm you're on the line so we can give you access to share your screen or to just have your video on. If you can use a raise hand button.
She is on the line.
She's on the line, okay. Sunday, please, can you grant her access for video?
Okay.
Thank you. Immediately after Mrs. Olopade comes up, we are also going to have the Assistant General Secretary of NAPE, who would come share some insights as to how to make your membership easier and to assess content, technical content, but importantly, to also pay your dues so that you can be a part of the activities that we are planning at the ESCO level. So Mrs. Olopade, we are ready when you are ready. Great, she's on now. You can have your video on now.
Okay, my video can't come on unless the host brings it up. That's what it's saying.
You can go ahead and put up your video, ma'am.
I can't. It's saying unable to start video. Your video.
Start it again. Start it again.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, President. All protocols observed. My name is Olabisi Olopade. Dear esteemed NAPI members, for all the distinguished members within our industry, I wish to respectfully request that you help to circulate the information of the 2021 ongoing election. Initially, the submission of some nomination forms was supposed to end on the 15th of May. However, our ESCO executive members has extended the date. It's now June 11th. This will afford everybody to have an opportunity to submit their nomination forms. The positions that are open are President-elect, the Vice President, University Assistant Program Chairperson. So I'd like to invite all members to participate in this electoral process by choosing NAPE leaders who can steer us in the progress. Basically, all we need to do is to go to the NAPE website, and it's www.nape.org.Nigeria. Once you click on it, you see all the nomination forms there. Please go ahead and fill the form, follow the requirements, and submit the forms as stipulated there. Supposed to be submitted to myself, as well as the as Abiewa too. So have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tubosun. Madam PS.
Okay. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. So members, you are implored to please, now that the extension date has been announced, it is now June 11th, kindly pick up your forms, get your signatories in, and let's have credible people who would be available, importantly, to steer our organization forward. I'd like to call on the AGS now to talk to us about membership. AGS, are you on the call? AGS, can you maybe use the hand raised button so we're sure that you're on the call? Okay. Oh, there, what a day. All right, so please, I'd like to implore that you please persevere with us for today. Well, are you on the call? Okay, great.
Are you seeing me? Yeah, you disabled me, so I was waiting for you to get me back. Okay, am I heard, please?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
We can hear you.
I hear you.
All right, good morning, all. I want to talk about membership, especially our database cleanup, what we are doing right now. We have been embarking on database cleanup, and we are having some difficulties, and that's why some members got emails from us asking for change of emails, or to confirm that their emails that they have with NAPE secretariats, that they are functional. So these difficulties we are having actually is being caused mainly by non-functional emails and phone numbers, and also people who are not, there are members who active still bear their registration number, still bear students or something, you know, or junior members, people who have been in the industry and been a member of NAPE for some years, and you still see their numbers, registration numbers as JN or ST, you know, students. And so we would like, you know, we are updating this and we would like members to help us. And then by the mails that we sent out, please, please contact the NAPE office. We are going to display the numbers for the workers. It's already the numbers for the membership officer at the secretariat. Contact her emails, especially when technical meetings are announced, when other informations are put out there. Some people say they don't get it. Even we do send bulk SMS. Many people don't get it. So please contact this number and email on the screen now. Get it down. And then also contact other people who you think that they may be having this problem to share it and update these. Get in when they want to try to go into the portal. You know, they are on the membership portal. And main reason is because they have not paid up their dues. If you have not paid up their dues, you're denied that access. And you have to contact the membership officer to get you in, to allow you to pay your dues before you can have full access again. And so please, if you have not
Right. So
these emails or that we've been sending out, please contact the office. Then we plead to all members, pay your dues, pay up. We will soon be just because the first line reminder we sent out is, you know, it has expired, and we are just.
All right, AGS, your network is really cracky, and I know that the members understand.
Have not really landed that hammer. So please help us and let us build our NAPE to greater height, to rally around and let us.
Oh, apologies about that. It's really a very poor network today. So let's move on. Okay. I could hear you, but we hear you clearly. But the whole essence of what the AGS is saying, just as a quick recap, is that we need you to please help us to clean up our membership database. We have members whose address and contact details are as old as while they were students. And we know that things would have changed and you may not be able to access such email. So because of that, we have a lot of bounce back, and that is coming up as a flagged database issue for us. We wouldn't want to be in error of the law and fall into problems with our data confidentiality, especially as we say that our members subscribe to receive our information. We are beginning to see a lot of potential threats and issues in that area, and that's why we'd like to plead that you kindly update your contact details on the NAPE database. All you have to do, if you do not have access, is to probably pay up your dues or contact ABS, who will give you your membership details, log into the platform, update your details with your new email address, and we would reach out to you. Thank you. I think that's the crux of the message that the AGS wanted to pass to us. So we will run quickly. Let's get into the technical meeting, then we'll come back to announcement. But just as a reminder, our technical meeting today is hosted by Total. We have a video that will be played on their behalf, showcasing what they do in Nigeria in the upstream sector, and also the CSR activity, which is an additional video that we would like to share on their behalf. The chairperson for today's session is no other than, so give me a minute to share my screen, please, is no other than Dr. Joe Ejedawe. Now, Dr. Joe needs no introduction. Dr. Joe is sedimentology. You know, when we're thinking of who would chair the session, it was an easy decision to make. Please confirm that you can see my screen. I have a lot of lag today. Please, can anyone see my screen, please?
We can see your screen, but it's still blank.
Okay.
It's coming up. Okay, we can see it.
Give me some time. Okay, so the chair of the session today is Dr. Joe Ejedawe, and it needs no introduction. So what I would like to do, because of static, is that I would like to kindly ask that I turn off my video for the meantime while I do this, so I don't have to struggle with you not hearing me or the otherwise. So please, my apologies about that. So the chair of today is Dr. Joe Ejedawe, and we know him as the father of sedimentology in Nigeria. Expertise, Tunde, please, can you mute? His expertise is regional geology, basin and play evaluation, prospectivity analysis, evaluation for farming and farm out ventures, reserves evaluation, and field development planning. Dr. Joe currently manages, or is a managing partner at Ejedawe and Partner, and their focus is minerals and petroleum consultants. While we have Dr. Joe comes in, I would like to also introduce our speaker for today on behalf of Total. Momodu Ogogo has been with Total E&P for 17 years. He obtained a first-class degree in applied geology from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, which is now called the Federal University of Technology, Bauchi. He started his career as a well site geologist in Port Harcourt, and he subsequently worked as an exploration geologist, and has also been involved in various parts of the E&P funnel, from exploration, appraisal, development, across multiple basins in Nigeria, Angola, Norway, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. So that's the kind of expertise he's bringing to the table while he's talking about turbiditic reservoirs. Currently, he's a specialist in clastic sedimentology and interpretation with the Total Group. We'd like to welcome both Dr. Joe and Ogogo to the podium. If you can please give them access to share their screen, especially Ogogo, and spotlight Dr. Joe. So can you confirm you can do that? Can we have, oh great. Good morning, Dr. Joe, good to see you. Good morning,
good
sir.
Good morning. Morning to you.
Right.
Good morning, everybody.
Right, great. So, Dr. Joe, over to you to open the session, and thereafter we'll have Ogogo come make his presentation. And on his behalf, you'll wrap us for us and then take questions and answer in the way you would like it moderated. Over to you, Doctor.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this technical session. The presentation will be made by Momodu Ogogo, and it's on this very interesting subject, understanding turbiditic systems for hydrocarbon development. It's unfortunate that the focus here is on development. I probably would have liked to see the exploration side of it, but it's okay. He's written a pretty short abstract, and it has to do with making us understand the role of turbiditic systems in hydrocarbon development. I don't know if examples will be drawn from Nigeria, or from other areas, but I think it promises to be a very interesting lecture, and I guess we all look up to the presentation. We will listen to him first, and then we will take questions later. Thank you. Over to you, Mohammed.
All right, good morning. I just wanted to confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
All right, so I'll share my
Yes, I
screen.
can hear you.
And please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yes.
All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to this technical meeting for the month of May. So first of all, I want to thank NAPE and my company for allowing me to make this presentation today, which I've titled Understanding Turbiditic Deposits for Hydrocarbon Development. Now, as an introduction, it's quite a bit broad. It goes from one end to the other. And like Doc said, he would like to see something from exploration. Well, I have a little opener, which may just give us some feelers of what exploration did in the past and what it can still do for the future. And then I will narrow into a particular case at the level of a field, where I will try to talk about the importance of knowing how these deposits organize themselves for connectivity issues and how to produce them to the maximum. So my presentation will take this outline. So I do love to start with an icebreaker. It's going to be a quick one, and I'll tell you how we do it together. Then some introduction and just some extra introduction on turbiditic systems. Then we'll look at their internal architecture for exploration and production. Then I will delve into a case study, which I call the BME channel connectivity. And then we'll wrap up with some conclusions. So we'll start off with an icebreaker. So we'll make use of the chat. It's just an introduction for knowing that it's a mixed audience. We might have students, professionals, and otherwise. So I just want us to take a look at these this suite of well logs. And I just want to ask a simple question, what we think. Now, I'll just describe the log in some few details. So we have the gamma ray here, where we obviously, I would just say these are sands, typically. We have the neutron density and other logs, resistivity showing us hydrocarbon presence, and of course, the porosity logs. So just with your chart or how, I don't know, I think the chart works. What do you think these might be? Do you think they are channels, sands from channels? Do you think they are lobe sands? Do you think they are channel and lobe sands? So just a quick one, if we may just give our responses. What do we think on this? Maybe from the chats. What do we think? Okay. So anybody just give your thoughts. Do you think it's A, B, or C?
Which question will be that now?
All right. Okay, I see answers on B. I see answers on C, B, C's. All right, so thank you for the responses. It's just a little introduction, and I hope it was a good one. So these actually, so I'll just show you what they are. They actually channel sands, completely, in fact. And this is how they do look like on the seismic data set. So these are very large channel complexes, okay, coming off one of our fields in one of the countries. And what I like about this image is just the fact that it helps us understand the complexities we can have with turbidites. Sometimes we do have the notion that blocky sands could easily just be lobes, but that has been proven over time that that's not necessarily the case. So there's a lot that goes on within these turbidites, and hence the importance to know how they organize themselves in order for us to predict them and also to produce them when they are hydrocarbon bearing. Like in the example here, you can see multiple levels in this system and this can introduce a lot of complexities. So now we'll go straight into the presentation. So some little background regarding turbiditic systems in Nigeria. So according to the DPR website, so this is a 2019 document, it's reported that there's an estimated, projected anyway, 13 billion barrels of hydrocarbons in the deep water. That's quite significant. Today, or in that same timeline of 2019, these fields, the developed fields from the deep water, were contributing about 850,000 barrels per day. And that's about 40% of the total production, daily production from Nigeria. So that's quite significant production coming from the deep water. And about 3.2 billion barrels have been produced right up to about December 2018. So this tells us that this domain is very prolific in the Nigerian setup as well as in other parts of the world. So it has been a major game changer in the oil and gas industry. Now let's begin to go into it a bit more technically. And I start from a very large scale. And I hope this might please Doc and other listeners. Why I like this map so much, so this is the Niger Delta, and what we do see here, permit me to use. All right. Okay. So here is the Niger Delta, a snapshot of the Niger Delta. So we recognize all the fields. In green are the oil fields, in red are the gas fields. And then we recognize the domain which is onshore in this axis. And then we recognize the domain which is the offshore, and then the deep offshore where we have most of the turbidites. What do we see? So these circles in yellow, they show us some of the major deep water fields that we have in Nigeria. But there's something interesting when you make a close observation, and I was zooming into them to tell you how they do align, telling us that there is something important for us to retain. So I first of all start with the onshore. So what do we see in the onshore? So this is a zoom in on the onshore part here in the black square or rectangle. And we recognize the modern day river, okay, the confluence between River Niger and Benue. So this is the major feeder for the Delta as a whole. But what we also observe in the zoom in section, you can take note of the fields in that same domain where we have the modern day river. So we have all these fields in green and in red. They tell us something important about the history of the Delta. They tell us that this Delta has retained an inherent pattern through time. Hence, it has continued to churn out sediments through this pathway. And these fields, of course, with the addition of the structural component, have this presence. So they really tell us something important, which is the same observation we also pick up in the deep water. So I zoom into one of the sections of the circles, of the ellipses, and this is in the Bonga area and some other fields like Oberan and the likes. We also pick up these fields, which also show us selected patterns and pathways, which tell us inherently that the turbiditic systems always retain what they usually start with from the origin. So there's an inherent pattern, hence we can predict, where and how they might behave through time. So this gives us a landscape. So here we have the zone where we have the Eraboses. This is the Bonga area. I'm not too so familiar with the fields here. Then we have the fields that we operate, our own fields here. Likewise in this sector with ExxonMobil. Now these are pathways through time. And when we learn to understand how they are organized, they can give us very good hints regarding where we should begin to look for these large-scale turbiditic systems in order to know how best to explore them. Knowing fully well that the turbiditic domain of Nigeria or the Niger Delta is a mud-rich system. So we'll talk about that briefly as well. So in a quick table, so here is just a simple reminder. So I have some reminder slides and I'll go quickly on them. So this shows us how the deep water systems look like. So we have what we call the turbiditic depositional systems. We have the non-turbiditic systems. Then we have the post-depositional systems with some seabed features. So we focus on the turbiditic systems. We have those that are channelized. We have those that are unchannelized. and those ones give rise to what we call lobes and sheet sands. Non-reservoirs, which are always present with them, are what we call the MTCs, or mass transport complexes. We have the contourites, and then we have the pelagites and the hemipelagites. But we'll focus on the channelized part in the case study that I will present later on. So earlier I mentioned a term which I call the mud-rich systems, and this is what is accepted to be what we have in the Niger Delta case. But globally, there are different types of turbiditic systems. So you have the mud-rich systems, so you have the mud sand-rich systems, and then you have the mud-rich system. Of course, you have other ones with multiple sources as well. So there are different types of settings. So you need to know which setting you are in order to know what to expect, because the spatial distribution of the turbidites is not the same everywhere, as you can obviously see from these different images. So what to note is they initiate from the shelf of the slope into the basin area where they are fully deposited. They exist on the slope as well, but mostly when you have the much lower gradients in your basin area. So this is from Richard and Reading's 1994. What else do we know about turbidites? Very importantly, their morphology. This is very critical in trying to predict them, in trying to understand them, and also know how large or how small they might be. This is the famous Zaire fan, which is one of the largest fans in the world. And you can see its size, it's in hundreds of kilometers. It's in hundreds of kilometers. These systems can be quite large. So you can just take a snapshot here and just imagine all the different fields like I had showed you in the image, in this image here, okay? So you can take one fan system in this area, giving rise to all the fields in their different individual parts. So this is quite important to know how to source them and how they develop. This is one of the largest in the world. Then we scale down, we go deep into their individual channel systems or individual complexes, where we try to understand how their makeup is. So what do we see? Do we see channels? Do we see lobes? Do we see sheets? What kind of channels are they? Are they sand-rich, or are they poor in reservoir? We check all those. Then we also go much deeper into the scale to see at the level of what we call the individual channels or the stories, how they organize themselves. So these are when we begin to look at the logs and to see what we can deduce from them. Then finally, we have the scale of the cores, which is very important in characterizing them for model purposes. So once again, quick one on the scales. The scales of investigation vary a lot in what we do. So we look at the seismic data set, which is often a reference for exploration as well as for development. So you see very nice systems here. These are actually abrupt margins of some other countries. So we look at the scales of logs, where we see tens of meters and meters. We look at centimetric to metric scales, which are the borehole images. We look at cores, and of course, we look at thin sections when necessary. Again, on their details, so very complex objects they can be. So internally, they can have different fields depending on sediment supply, depending on many other things. So on a quick one, this is our internal, how we classify them internally, going from non-reservoirs down to the reservoirs. So basically what we do have is non-reservoirs most times lead us to the levees and other silty events. And then we begin to develop more sand-rich systems when we have channel fields or in the lobe settings or in the sheet settings where the parts we really want to develop. So we go from what we call AF1 to about AF12, and in some cases non-reservoirs like the AF8 and the AF16. So one thing I want us to retain from here is that the internal variability of these systems can be low to high, depending on their size, and depending on the sources. So also very important to note is the hierarchy. This is one of the big issues when you have to deal with production. You have to understand the internal hierarchy of this turbiditic system because the scales vary. Their sizes are not the same everywhere, and the organization is always different. So we can go from depositional systems, which are within the range of 50 to 200 meters in the vertical. And on the lateral sides, in width, they can go up to 2,000 meters or more, depending. These are for channel complexes. Then we scale down to the model scale, where we look at objects at 20 to 50 meters, where we talk about channel stories or subcomplexes. These are one internal nomenclature. Then we go down to the facies association, which is much smaller, at 10 to 30 meters vertically and about 400 meters on the width. And the smallest scales, which are the building blocks, are the sedimentary facies, which we look at on the cores or also on outcrops. So all this is a function of sediment supply, accommodation, and sea level changes. Now I will spend more time to delve into the case study that I want to look at, with a goal to trying to show you how understanding these systems can help us improve what we know if we're in a producing field, and also how to optimize when we have or we consider the issues of connectivity. So it's a case study I call the B-mid complex. Now there are two terms that you may hear often in the next couple of slides. There's one I'm going to mention a lot, which is called lateral migration or accretion. Some call it lateral offsets, but they have to do with sinuous channels that produce amalgamated complexes. So a key thing about them is the internal amalgamation depends on the nature of the channel field, and I'll talk about that later. Then I also mentioned 4D seismic. It's not my area of strength, but basically the 4D seismic helps to tell us how we observe subsurface fluid flow over time, the changes we see during production or during depletion, injection in a hydrocarbon reservoir. So I introduce now the B complex. This is how it looks like. So if you haven't seen the Turbidity complex before, this is a very good example, and it's a very lovely one for studies. So basically we have in this area here, the axis of the channel complexes of this channel complex, and on either side, we develop the levees, which are largely the non-reservoir. In occasions, you can have splays of the channel complex when there is a breach from the main channel towards the levee area, which are also reservoirs. So in this complex, we call the B channel complex, we have, in a hierarchical sense, we have 3 levels, the deepest being the B lower, followed by the B mid, and then we have the B upper. So this is a very good example of what we call an erosive constructive channel complex, whereby the levees offer protection to sediments retained within the axis, and then you can really have good reservoirs and good connectivity within the axis of your complex. So in the next slide, I show you how these 3 levels look like. So these are the amplitude maps extracted from these 3 levels. So starting with the lower, you can recognize a very lovely channel complex, very wide as well. My scale here is 2.5 kilometers. So I'm looking at least 1.5 kilometers in width. So these are quite wide objects. This is the B lower, the oldest. And then we have the B mid, which will be the focal points that I will take on in the next couple of slides. And then we have the B upper. Now, taking a snapshot look at the entire images, you can agree that it is not something that is homogeneous, even from the amplitude responses. It's not homogeneous on any of the levels at all. And these are the issues that we must face when we have to produce hydrocarbons from them. So we need to know how they organize internally in order to be able to predict, in order to place our wells, in order to sweep efficiently what we think they might be. Now, I show you the same image again, but just a little zoom in, and I'll be focusing from now to the rest of the presentation on the B-mid system here. So it's quite a nice amplitude response, which you see here, capped up by there's a plug here at the top here, okay? And then we have this response here. Now, it looks quite homogeneous, and the question we were asking ourselves at a particular time, based on information from 4D, was, is this system entirely communicating? Are these reservoirs communicating together because we have wells in that space? So I will go to the next slide and I'll show you what were the observations from 4D. So 4D, like I said earlier, is a seismic, trying to understand fluid changes when you have injection or depletion in a hydrocarbon reservoir. So basically, what were the observations from 4D? The 4D suggested that it showed 2 things. First of all, it showed a signal that is called an overpressure. So that this could be due to many things. So in this case, due to probably the injection coming from this well 45. But at the same time, we already observed that there was depletion in the same body. So it was a bit of a confusion if we could have both happening at the same time, a depletion as well as an overpressure in the same body. Okay, and knowing that the 4D is kind of hard data, well trusted by the geophysicists. So we needed to understand now, are these bodies talking to each other? Do we have a common channel complex, or they are different? Or if they are the same, what do we expect to find through time? So questions we're asking ourselves, even more importantly, are, okay, does the injection well 45 support 46 and also support a new well, which was 54? Then would there be a need for another injector if we believe that the 45 well is not really supporting these producer wells? Would there be a need for a new injector, maybe for 46? Then we have to look at, would the sweep be effective through time? So the questions just centered around, are these channels the same? Do we have multiple channels? If they are multiple, are they disconnected or connected? So what do we expect through time? So the first thing we did was to try and to interpret these channels themselves. So what we can observe in a spatial approach is, yes, we do see two systems or two channels in this space in the B-mid interval. So in the colors there, so in this colored part, this is the lower part of it, or the older part of the system, which we call the mid channel 2. And then we have a younger part of it, which we call the mid channel 1. So the first thing we observe is they share a common history. This is quite important for turbidites because when you can make such observations, they can give you comfort to what you might expect in terms of their connectivity. When the pathways are different, it can also bring complexities. But here we see a rather close fit between them. So they already give us a hint that these channels might be talking, and then we might need to review what we think the 4D might look like through time. Here is one of our in-house, should I call it a tool, which we call the SPEC. And it's based on frequencies, so seismic frequencies, where we try, when the data set is quite good, to see the bodies quite well. And you would agree with me that the images here are quite captivating. So we recognize these different systems like we showed earlier. So we recognize the younger mid channel 1, which is this part here. And we also recognize the older mid channel 2. So now that we know and we constrain these channels very well, the question for us remains, are they connected? And what could be the evidence for them? So then I will now introduce a phenomenon that is quite important, which I mentioned earlier, which is known as the lateral accretion package. So these are channel systems through time, okay? When your channel is growing and developing, it could have different forms of amalgamation. This is an example from the Karo Basin, and it's a very beautiful example I recently found. So through time, your channels are migrating, they are laterally shifting and depositing, and as a function of the amalgamation, you can easily have a connection or a disconnection. So this has to do with how much mudstones you bring in, how much inflow you have, and the source. Generally for turbidites, the result is often better in the sense that the sediment supply is always more frequent in the low stand setting. Hence, there is always a greater chance of having your sands amalgamated. But we need to be able to see that equally on the data set we have. So I show you first an example from another case study that I have looked at in the past. And this is a very good example. And I like it quite much because it gives you a complete picture of what that lateral accretion does look like. So here we have, for good calibration, a well, and we have this system in the yellow ellipse here, which is an accretion and terminates ultimately at the abandonment stage with a plugged channel or a channel plug, the last field. So I show you some arrows here to indicate how the system was growing through time. And on the map, in my A to B section, this is the direction of the lateral accretion. Generally, when you make these observations, you expect very good connection in your sands, because these sands are quite clean, and when in turbiditic systems, we are able to connect the sands one after the other. So these are the observations we then decided to look for in the B-mid example to see if we can prove the same. And I'll show you some lines to that. Here is another example offshore Angola of a not so good case, but it's still fairly good, but it's semi-amalgamated. So in this example here, which also is a lateral accretion and the direction of the deposits is this way, ending with the last channel here, you can have good sands at the base which are all connected one to another, which is quite good. But here you can see the amalgamation is not as good as the first example I showed you. And you could have some sort of baffling in an example like this. So this is from Angola, from the Miocene channels. Now let's come back to ours and let's see, going from the north to the south, what are the observations we made. So the mid-channel 1, as you recall, is the younger part. The mid-channel 2 is the older part. So it takes most of the lateral accretion right up to the mid-channel 1. So what we can see here, going in the direction of the accretion, we can see some very good continuity. At least at this scale here, we see some good continuity. What is also important to note is its direction with respect to the deposits. What we should expect is that the accretion will go in the direction towards the younger side. And that's what we see on the map as well. So we see that it goes from the older side on the map above in the greenish area, and it goes into the younger side. So that is quite good, because then you are guaranteed more or less to have good connection between your reservoirs. Another example, now in a mixed zone. So here are areas where you could have some little challenges. Now here we observe lateral accretion on either side, okay? But here what we see is the channel is accreting in this direction. Now on the other side, which is like the high side, this area here, the connection here, you might begin to pose some questions if the sands here can connect with the mid-channel 1 sands here, because this is where the channel, mid-channel 1 begins to turn. So there are possibilities you may have some little baffling in an area like this. But as we go further south, we see that the accretion begins to grow. So we know that connection will still be good. So this is further south of where we were before, and this is a very beautiful lateral accretion of this channel system all the way. You can also see the size is growing from the beginning right over there. The system is growing. What does the growth mean? It means you're getting thicker. So the sands are getting thicker, which is equally good. So you expect that you will have good sand connection all the way there down to the mid channel, which is what we will later see. So here I take another line. Here we also observe the lateral accretion. This is the shortest part, is in this part here. We observe the lateral accretion in this direction. We see the response of the 4D, which you see on the map here. So we expect that this 4D will have a good sweep right into this area as well. And this is a quick one to show what the accretion looks like in 4 panels. So it's not as juicy as the other views, but each time we go through those accretions, we are able to pass through sand bodies, which is equally a good calibration. But this is the finest of the examples of them all. So in the same direction, going from the oldest parts to the youngest parts, we observe the beautiful accretion of these sands right from the mid-channel 2 into the mid-channel 1. So with this knowledge, we are able to say at this point that we do believe that these sands are connected. And we believe that with time, even though the 4D made an observation, we'll be able to see a connection between these sands through time. And I recap again what the questions were at the beginning and begin to come to the end of the presentation. So the questions really are these sands talking together? What we see here, channel 1, channel 2, the overpressure and the depletion, do we have a story? So what do we observe? So first of all, is the injector well going to support the producer? Is the injector well supporting the producer? So this is an error on my part here. It should be a yes. So do we need another injector? No. Would there be an effective sweep through time? We believe yes. Are the mid channel 1 and 2 disconnected? No, we don't think they are disconnected. So what should we expect through time? Thankfully, by the time we did this work, there was a new monitor, a 4D monitor that was about being acquired. And that later came to suggest and prove to us that, yes, it seems we are on track with the observations. So this is the initial 4D monitor at the time that showed us overpressure as well as a depletion, as though there were two different systems. But as we acquired the new monitor gave us a confidence that, yes, the red lines here show the envelope of the channel 1 and channel 2. So this showed us very nicely that, yes, we expect that these systems are connected as the 4D shows us today. Likewise, in the south, you also see that expansion of the 4D within the two systems of mid-channel 1 and mid-channel 2. So this gave us some really good confidence that, okay, we don't think we might need any additional maybe wells for any injectors or things like that in order to produce or to help sweep effectively. We believe with this, we should be able to continue and then have a good sweep and recovery through time. So this is coming to the end of my presentation. So very good image here. And these two images, they look almost like carbon copy. You see the lateral accretion in its growth from this, the thinnest part to the thickest part. That's the way it is. And it grows with time, and then it becomes thicker and thicker as you get more and more into the channel. It's the same observation we see here. Often ends with a plug, okay, at the top, which is what you also see in this known example. So I end with an animation of these two lines. And here I just animate them so you can have a feel of what that looks like. I'll do it one more time. You see a very nice image and of these accretions and this channel system. So this was quite good for us, and I come to the conclusions. So what do we conclude from these? That though our systems and reservoirs are quite variable, they can yet be predictable. I'm a kind of like a stickler for principles. So thanks to all our lecturers at school who taught us principles on this object. They still work irrespective of the amount of data you have, irrespective of the quality of seismic you have, or irrespective of the tools we have today. Sticking with principles always still help our science in subjects like this. The internal architecture continues to be understood. We need to know them in order to know how they connect for well placement and how we can sweep our hydrocarbon effectively. And in the BMID examples, so understanding this internal geometry of these reservoirs was useful in complementing the 4D interpretation. So on this note, I would like to say thank you for listening. I hope I wasn't too fast, and I hope you've been able to learn one or two things from this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mamadou, for a brilliant presentation. Quite interesting. Although you didn't dwell much on the exploration, it was quite revealing also, because we could see the relationship between the channel complex in the onshore and how that has fed into the deep water turbidite systems, which forms the exploration focus and development today in the deep water. So you started off by giving us an icebreaker, quite interesting. A little learning there. Distinction between channel lobes and channels themselves, turbidite lobes and channels themselves. When we see those blocky log shapes, we always think of not only of channels really, but also of lobes. But I think it was quite revealing here that you identify them as channel systems and we can see the seismic examples, multi-story complexes that make up this channel. And then you took us a little bit into the exploration phase. In terms of what we have seen as the contribution of the deep water, 13 billion barrels reserves, 850,000 barrels per day, making up 40% of Nigeria's production. And we have had a total production of 3.2 billion barrels of oil by December 2018 from the deep water. That's basic statistics. It tells us the importance, not just of the deep water, but of the turbidite systems to the reserves position of Nigeria. And then, of course, you took us through the basic exploration phase, linking the channel systems of the onshore to the deep water, and how those channel systems have persisted through time, and how the fields are also related to those channel systems. Very instructive. It gives us the predictive model for where to focus our exploration, both onshore and in the deep water. And then we came to the crux of the presentation. So you took us first through the morphology of turbidite systems, giving us the turbidite systems as presented by Reading and Richards, the sand-rich, the mud-rich, and the mixed system, and how those affect the morphology of the individual turbidite systems. And then the architecture of these systems, which is related also to the sediment inputs into the various turbidite systems. The scales of investigation is important because that actually brings us to the level of development, which is the focus of what you talked about. Taking off from the seismic level, which will be the level at which we will see it from exploration and the larger development stage, through the logs. Then we look at the borehole images, and then the cores, and then subsequently even down to thin sections when we want to look at the details of what we are looking at. When we talk of scales, going from the larger scale to the smaller scale, this is really the full range of our understanding of turbidites, going from exploration to development. And I like to emphasize here, I always say when you are onshore, if you're an explorationist and you are onshore and you find a structure, the tendency would be you would drill that structure because you are pretty sure you have reservoir systems. When you come to the deep water, where we now have predominance of turbidite systems, it's a completely different ballgame. When you are, because here you are actually in a sea of shale systems with dispersed reservoirs. So you really need to do the nitty-gritty detailed work to know where the reservoirs are. So if even you find a good structure, you will be hesitant to drill it because you don't really know where the reservoirs are. And this is where the seismic and this scale events come in. And then you narrow those down to looking at your B complex. That model, of course, in terms of the hierarchy, you showed you could have the persistence of channel systems in one location, but you see variability in their exact position, which is what you try to reveal in terms of that B-mid channel, where you have, in principle, you have the channel 2 and the channel 1. And with the focus of trying to identify how the injector is affecting production and the connectivity of the reservoirs. Actually, here the focus is on connectivity. Do we have good connectivity? I wouldn't dwell on the total tools. I guess the focus really is having the tools, which can vary from one company to the other, having the tools to be able for you to isolate the reservoir systems and isolate the level of connectivity that exists between the channels. The key really is although you have variability, you do have predictability from what you have shown. It is that predictability that actually when we say our ideas find oil and gas, we might actually also extend it. It is all our ideas, not only finding the oil and gas, also producing it in principle. So that variability constitutes we have a predictability that enables us to look into the future in terms of what we get out of what we see in both seismic, in the logs, in cores, and in thin section. So I guess that covers what you presented for us. Again, we will open the floor for questions. So I don't know. Am I going to take that, or Boss? So are you going to handle that?
Would you like me to read it? I can read it.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
Just pick the questions and let him answer some of them. We probably won't have time for a large number of questions.
Right. So we have 3 already in the Q&A, and I think I see 2 on the chat. So I'll just go first. It's in no particular order, and I'm not boxing them into categories. So I'm just going to take them as they are posted on the platform. So the first one says, did you build reservoir models before drilling the wells, and how close were the predictions?
Yes, it depends at what stage. Okay, so at the beginning, when you start from the explore stage, you work with your interpretation, how best you know the field, you know what you're looking at, and then after you drill a few wells, certainly in our methodology, we always will build models. And with every new well, with every new seismic, we always work on our models, we always improve them. So it's a continual process. So even after we had the M3, we still had to do a new update to be sure that there's nothing different from what we know previously. If there's something different, we have to tweak it in the model or build a new model. So it's always the process is iterative as long as you have new information.
Okay, that question was from Kenneth Ubata. I'll move to the next question, which is from Dr. Opuwari, all the way from South Africa. He's asking where we can see the outcrop of the turbidites in Nigeria, or where can we see the outcrop of the turbidites in Nigeria? That's his exact question.
Oh, that's a very good, I'm sure Doctor will have a better answer than myself. Opuwari, I greet you. I know. The Niger Delta is, I mean, we really can't see anything. I don't know, maybe Doc might give me a better answer than this.
No, we don't see true turbidite systems in outcrops in Nigeria. Most of what we see is what we see in the deep water. So
yes, exactly.
And that's why, if you see some of the major companies, they take their staff overseas for field work and so forth. It's just to expose them to those hardcore settings that enable them to have a practical understanding of turbidite.
So maybe if somebody, I know Dr. Kwari, we won a field trip together in South Africa, so I understand his position. So if you really want very good nearby analogs for turbidites on a field trip, South Africa is a very, very good place in the Karoo Basin. Excellent location for turbidites.
Okay, there you go, Dr. Kwari. So there is a question around what type of pressure regimes were you getting in the channels? This is from Victor Agbebit.
Yes, so I deflect to the assets yet, and what we generally have, there is some overpressure, okay, because these are deep water sediments. They are not hydrostatic, okay, we know they are not hydrostatic, so there is some overpressure in the sands, but still, I mean, for us to have hydrocarbons is not too much as it were, but still okay. So there is overpressure in the channels, yes.
Thank you. From AJ Elijah, it says, what are the impacts of post-depositional diagenetic activities on the turbidite system?
Very good question. Yes, I mean, it depends. This now depends on context. In the examples that I've studied on, we don't have many issues with diagenesis, okay? But in areas where you have an active aquifer, if you have an active aquifer, it is very easy to have diagenetic processes in your turbidites. In our cases, we don't really have such problems, okay? Just maybe little cases of like siderites and the likes, but we don't really have major diagenetic activities. But if you have an active aquifer, great water movement, you can easily have diagenetic reconditioning in your turbidites. But in our cases, we really don't have much of that.
Doctor, do you want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay. All right.
The Niger Delta is not known for extensive diagenetic subsurface. Yeah. You do have some, but not extensive.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I have a 3-in-1 question here, so I'll take it in stride. You answer one, then I'll just go to the other. So it says, from your presentation, from the B-mid channel complex presented, does the reservoir in question have an aquifer drive, or it was a completely hydrocarbon filled reservoir?
That's a good question. Very good question. For the B-mid, yeah, it's still one of the studies that is being done in the B to know the extent of the aquifer, but generally, turbidites don't have very good aquifer systems. And that's the reason why in most of the fields, you always have to use injectors. The aquifer drive is not very strong. In the B-mid, it's not so strong either. So yes, they're not large. Knowing that the aquifers are contained in the channel systems, which are turbiditic themselves, they are channels or lobes, they are not so large. So you will need support from injectors. So the aquifers are small.
Well, I think you've answered the second question, but I will go ahead and quote him. And this is from David Anomnese, by the way. He says, what challenges can be encountered if such channel is completely filled with hydrocarbon with no underlying aquifer? And what will be the best development plan for optimal and sustained production from such reservoir?
You need injectors. I mean, that's just the only way out. Yeah, like you said, the question was already answered. You need injectors to produce such, yes.
Okay. Right, so there's a question from Precious Osho. I hope I'm calling the names correctly. Osho. It says, why was your emphasis on the mid-B complex? Could it be due to stratigraphic or more net to gross?
No, nothing in particular. It just we took some time to work on it compared to the other levels. The other levels are a bit more less problematic, as it were, based on the information from the wells and the 4D. So the BMID at the time, we needed to clarify, but no real difference between all of them. They are different individually, but in terms of complexities, they are kind of similar. So it was just a focus on the BMID. The others can be treated maybe at another meeting.
Right. There is a question from an anonymous attendee, and I know that Prof has answered it, but I would ask it. Is the Niger Delta system a mud sand-rich turbiditic type? Right, that has been answered. So I'll go to the next one. Mr. Joseph Olima is asking how your work has helped reclassification of volumetric estimates revealed by DPR. Has it attempted to scale it down or increase it?
That's a good question. I will leave down for the assets, but I'll say let me see if I can give a very good answer. I mean, at every information we have from the wells, we would always recalculate volumes. At every information you have, you will always redo the volumes. Now, it can be dramatic, there can be changes, but it could go either way. So it's not a one-stop answer. For the BMID, I know there is a current model ongoing, so I cannot give spot answers to that yet. So there is a new model being built for it, and I guess the volumes will also be taken into account in the process.
The final question for today is from Oyere Mwabueze. It says, what seismic attributes did you use to extract these turbidite channels?
It's should I say it's the conventional seismic? I'm not a geophysicist, but I would just say it's the conventional seismic. The best, I mean, whichever acquisition is the best. We have the 4D seismic, that's dedicated to the monitors, but we also have, we now have new seismic over the block. I don't know what the name is, but I would say total as a whole, we like having the best. So I will just say simple answer, we use the best for our activity.
I think also Total would have internal tools that will try to isolate the body feel of the channels, and it varies from company to company. What attributes you actually use depends on what the company has developed to facilitate the isolation of these bodies.
Thank you, sir.
Doctor, thank you. I guess this is also important to, and I have one more questions on the chart. I'll take that, but this also emphasizes the importance of software that we use, because it does vary from one organization to the other. Yeah. But again, there are some general attributes that can be extracted from seismic. When you have the seismic data and you get on any particular software, there are some basic structural and stratigraphic attributes can be extracted. So I just implore that we all get our hands dirty in that regard. I have a question from Mr. Ebenezer Bamekoye. And I think we've answered it. It says, with the expected variability in the reservoir properties and discontinuous reservoirs, how were you able to build a fit-for-purpose model for the turbidite system?
Sorry, can you take it again? I didn't get the first part.
With the expected variability in the reservoir properties and discontinuous reservoirs, how were you able to build a fit-for-purpose model for the turbidite system?
Okay, so generally when we come to modeling, I think it's always important to have analogs and example. I mean, it's not just a data set, it looks nice and then you just fill in things. We need to always go back to the systems we know, and that's why we do field trips to places to see how these systems look like in order to know what to expect. And of course, with more experience in the job, you'll be able to know how best to predict. So I would say analogs are very important for you to know how to work your models. You need analogs from existing fields, analogs from live examples in the field. So all these put together, they help you to have a robust model that is fit for purpose.
Okay, I guess that's all for questions. I thank you, Mamadou, for a brilliant presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Quite interesting and exciting. So that brings us to the end of the technical session. I guess there are more announcements to be made. Thank you.
Right. I don't know how to say a round of applause for the erudite Dr. Ejedawe, and of course, Ogogo himself for this presentation. So if you can unmute very briefly and just give a clap to this technical knowledge sharing that we have enjoyed today. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you, Total. Thank you, Ogogo, for your depth of understanding, and importantly for even sharing so generously with us. I am sure, as I've had a couple of direct chats, that a lot of people would like to reach out to you, and these are young professionals and students. If you do not mind, I would like that you give us that opportunity to send our young professional engineers your way so that they can get from the depths of your knowledge. Right. Thank you very much, Doctor. I'd like to call the President-elect now, Dr. James Edet, to close the technical section part of our webinar meeting. Dr. James Edet, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tumbosun. Let me say a very big thank you also to Dr. Joe Ejedawe for graciously chairing this session, this webinar. And thanks to Mamadou as well for doing justice to this topic, even though as broad as it is, like Joe said, we would have wanted to hear more of the exploration. But I can assure you, Mamadou is equally capable of that as well. Let me thank all the members of NAPE who have taken out time to be here and who have been very much part of the discourse, very engaged, and also asking the right questions and making the rest of us really understand what turbidites are really about. And I thank everybody who has been here, and I hope we have all learned one thing or the other. And I think, let me also say that I haven't seen the number of people who have participated, almost 100 participants. This is great. And I thank you all for having made this a wonderful technical meeting. Thank you very much, Tumbosun. And I think at this point, we can bring this webinar session to a close.
No, it's not closed yet.
Okay, so
we have a lot of announcements. I would also like to thank our sponsors by sharing the ad acts to be shared to members to showcase the kind of activities that they are currently working on in Nigeria. So we are playing that video now, members. Sunday, we lost you. Flora, can you play your video, please? Oh, Sunday. Yeah.
Are you hearing it? Of course, I've logged them, sure. I've logged them.
So then you need to unmute You need to unmute. When you were on mute, we heard you. Now we can't hear the audio, please. All right, thank you very much, Tunde. So that was also the announcement part, and I'm going to be sharing my screen very quickly. What you see now is the array of activities that we have for the remaining part of May and also of June. And I'll also be calling on the EIC to talk us through the technical preparations towards the conference. Thereafter, the AEIC would come. I'm using a lot of acronyms, so my apologies. The EIC is the editor-in-chief, and the AEIC is the assistant editor-in-chief. This is the event that we held today, the May 19th. On the 22nd, we are going to be having personal finance management webinar session, and this is being powered by WIGE alongside NAPI. On the 26th, we'd like to generously invite you to NAPI Bini chapter technical meeting. That would happen next week, Wednesday. On Saturday, we have an activity from our IP, and we have an interesting event alongside the others that I talked about happening on June 2nd. So I'll just go over to this event and ask that the EIC come up and talk to us about the conference preparation. EIC, over to you. So, please, can you mute? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, the Publicity Secretary, and good afternoon, everyone. Very quickly, I want to take us through some of the key information we have to know with respect to NAPE Conference 2021. The theme of the NAPE's Conference 2021 is Petroleum Exploration and Production in a New World. What next after the global crisis? So the date of the conference is on the November 14th through 18th, 2021, and it's important to let us know that this conference is going to be a hybrid one where we'll be having the virtual component of the physical conference that will be transmitted from a co-hotel. And I want to just bring to our notice that as I speak to you, lots of abstracts are being submitted already. We have the call for abstracts, and the deadline for submission of the abstracts is next month, ending of next month, that's June 30th. All completed abstracts should be passed across to the editor-in-chief. And as I speak to you, lots of abstracts are submitted already. And for the abstract submission, we have about 8 sub-teams that have been carefully chosen, to address the different subject areas that will be handling the conference. From the first one, we have managing the E&P business and the strategies for reducing costs in the new PIB era. The second sub-team is focused on geophysics, novel concepts and approaches in geophysics in the onshore, offshore, and inland basins. Then the third one, petroleum studies and integrated reservoir modeling and drilling operations for petroleum potentials and successes in Nigeria frontier basins. The fifth sub-team is exploration to refining, aligning the value chain and domestic gas development and utilization. The sixth sub-team is centered on current technological advancements and applications in the petroleum exploration and production. The seventh one is about our energy mix that we all know of and transition for the next generation. And we have sub-team 8 on HSSE, health, safety, security, and environment, operational challenges in oil and gas exploration and production. So I just want to use this opportunity to ask every one of us individually, from the industry, from the academia, please put together your abstracts, send it across to us. Let's not just wait till the deadline, because we have a lot already, and we'll be passing them through a lot of peer review process. So please send them across to us. And to add to the major programs we'll be expecting during the conference, we'll be having our pre-conference workshop. We'll be having the virtual field trip. So much plans are on top gear. We'll be having a short, I think, alongside the summer school, the assistant editor-in-chief will be shedding some light on that, and lots of programs, management sessions, African nights, and too many things. So just put yourself together, start doing your registration now, send across your abstracts, and we'll be having a very wonderful and interesting conference 2021 come November 14th to 18th. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Can I have Victoria up on here? Yes, I'm here. Victoria, can you come up on here for your announcements? Today, can you confirm that Victoria has share access and she can unmute herself?
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, thank you. You just got me in. All right, thank you. Let's see if I can share. Well, I'm unable to share my video. Let me just go right quickly through what we have. Just like the PS and the editor-in-chief has rightly stated, we have quite a lot of activities lined up from the beginning of the year down to the end. To begin with, we have these 3 key activities or events coming up. The first is the formation evaluation short course, which is scheduled to happen in the month of June. We're actually going to be having it as a physical interactive class from the 21st to the 24th of June. We would have quite some rich content to share, as talking about reserves and uncertainties down to evaluation from well logs, data integration, nuclear magnetic resonance and the likes, formation testers, you name it. It's going to be a jammed 4-day course, and you do not want to miss that. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Yes.
The next course we'll be having in July is our summer school. This is planned for 3 days, and we will be covering petroleum economics. It's quite one that you do not want to miss. Once you've got the knack for learning, be sure to be a part of this. It's true, you could have some basic knowledge about the upstream business, but just come as you are and you would really be entertained in terms of knowledge. We would be covering business arrangement as it relates to petroleum. Fiscal terms would be taken care of during the course of this training. We would also have the technical considerations. Of course, the geoscience and the reservoir engineering space would of course take place. We would have knowledge around oil and the gas market, hedging, cost estimation, revenue appropriation, fund strategy, opportunity ranking, measure acquisition and divestment, you name it. It's going to be for 3 days, and you do not want to miss that as well. This will be coming up in the month of July. Then the main one will be happening in November, as you can see on the screen, the virtual field trip, like rightly pointed out by the EIC. This is planned to be around technostratigraphic evolution of the Dahomey Basin. We've already jump-started this. We've done our field work. We are collating and building our model right now, and this would cover the Dahomey Basin for the year. We would talk about and would share structural framework, stratigraphic play, field development analysis, opportunity rankings, and the likes. And the beauty about this is self-paced. So you just have to come with your device, be it your phone or your laptop, however way you'd want it. It's virtual, we're using technology, and it's gonna be really, really engaging. You don't wanna miss that. Again, this is happening pre-conference in the month of November. That is pretty much all I have in terms of announcement from my office. I'll now hand this over to the PS. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. I'd like to just ask, you didn't mention how to register for the short courses, so maybe you want to.
So sorry. Okay, sure. There would be invites coming. Publication would begin in earnest from next week. You would get the links, typical links. You just have to register, pay for the ones that would warrant paying for, and then you just get yourself in. But you get more information as the days go by. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So just as a recap for the activities that will be happening in the month of May and on to June, we are looking forward to having you again. On Saturday by 5 p.m., there is a very important webinar that you shouldn't miss, which is around personal finance investment management. It's powered by WIGE, and this will be done in collaboration with NAPE. You must have received the invite in your mailbox. Kindly click on it to register, because we have very limited participation. That's how important this event is. So we ask that you please pre-register for the event. May 26th, which is next week, Wednesday, by 11 p.m. we'll be doing this again. However, this time we'll be all the way at Benin. So the Benin chapter will be hosting Dr. Akpan-Ari on the topic High Resolution Prospect Evaluation Concepts, Methodology and Case Study. And we would be asking that you also pre-register for that. And we would send reminders again in the week so that you can get yourself and your calendar booked towards that day. Going forward, on 29th of May, we have the YP event. So if I must say, the YP have been doing a lot of activities that are not beneficial only to themselves, but to even many people in the industry. So when they plan their events, this event is not planned as the YP event, it's planned as an industry event. So we are asking that you please key on to the knowledge sharing that they are also putting together. But beyond that, a lot of their social activities too can be latched on to get knowledge. These are the kind of values that we would like to bring to you, our members. But beyond this, we have other interesting events that are going at the back end. Before I get to the interesting events, and I'd like to elaborate a bit on that, I would like to just close this part of the announcement with saying that we have Dr. Understanding, who will be talking to us about carbon capture and storage. So this is the kind of conversation we want to be having, especially as we have energy transition on us. What is the role of the geosciences as we move into this future? This event is not to be missed, as well as the others. Earlier during the meeting, we had the electoral chair of NAPE 2021 elections come up here to tell us about the fact that the election has been extended. So this has now been extended to June 11. The positions up for grab, not up for grab, the positions to be volunteered for is the president-elect position, the vice president, and the university assistant chairperson, programs chairperson position. So we'd like to ask that if you are interested and available to volunteer your time for these positions, if you need to seek approval from your management in an organization, please do that early. Get on the website, nape.org.ng, to find out the requirements, because you will be needing some signatories to your nomination. The NAPE Awards is up. John Bosco, can I put you on the spot to talk about this? Would you like that I do that? And I also like you to talk about mentoring too, if you don't mind.
No,
okay,
many thanks, Piers. So actually, the nomination for awards is ongoing as we speak. As you can see on the screen, we've got 6 awards that you can nominate either yourself or any NAPE member you think that deserves this award. And the deadline for the acceptance of nomination remains the 30th of June. So please send any nomination to the mail on the screen. And please, if you are being nominated or you're nominating someone, read what we wrote on the form. We have to play by the rules. So make sure you stay guided, because the committee will also follow the rules to make the recommendation. So that's for the awards. And of course, for the mentoring circles that the PS mentioned, is ongoing as we speak. So 79 mentees accepted from about 155 that applied. And we've got 20 mentors, senior leaders in the industry that are mentoring these 79 folks. And I think so far, we've had about 50% done. The remaining 50% will still be done in the month of May. And so far, the feedback has been great. So we look forward to playing back the outcome to every one of you. So back to you, PS.
Thank you very much. I probably didn't introduce you very appropriately. John Bosco is the vice president of our organization and is in charge of awards, and is also the one coordinating the NAPE mentoring circle. In fact, word has it that if you didn't get into the mentoring circle, even the industry mature technicals are also trying to get into it. It was completely oversubscribed, and we ask that the way to get to be a part of this value is really to be a member. But beyond being a member, actively volunteer. These initiatives are things that we hear from you, we come up with the whole aim of ensuring that our professional life is actually purposeful and fulfilled. I'd like to talk a bit about the Fellows Retreats. So on the April 29th and 30th, we had a 2 days fun-filled event. But beyond fun, we had an impactful event with our fellows. Now we are transmitting the whole idea behind the retreat, which was to begin to question, how do we position NAPE for the future? You know, the question came back to us as, how do you even position NAPE for the now, before we then start to talk about the future? We are also going to take that to the YP category and also to the student category. And we'll be feeding you back holistically when we have completed all of this retreats as to how NAPE is planned to be positioned in the future. There are no knee-jerk reaction here. We are ensuring that we are giving full thought to how we stay very relevant in the future. On that note, I'd like to remind us gently, please, we are social, or we are trying to be very social. Please follow us on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are NAPE_Nigeria. Any other one is a counterfeit. You know, I recognize that our chapters have NAPE, they have footprints on this digital space. So please follow them, but you will see them explicitly. You will say NAPE Benin chapter. But for the central organization, the handles are across all of this platform, NAPE_Nigeria or NAPE Nigeria. And that's the end of today's technical meeting. As usual, we are handing you 12 minutes back. But before we do that, I'd like to call on the president-elect to close this session, followed by the president, who will then finally put a close to it. P, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tumbosun. Okay, finally, so I got to say a very big thank you to everybody who has logged on to this call and participated with us and made us really proud. I thank every one of us, and I thank the presenters, the presenter, Momodu, and the chairman for the occasion for doing a sterling job, taking us through. In fact, giving us a second presentation on top of the first one. That was great. And then, of course, with nothing much to add except to say a big thank you to Tumbosun and her team, and to the Vice President of NAPE and to the President of NAPE for being giving us their time and being here and guiding us through this lovely and very enlightening presentation. Let me also say a big thank you to the entire backroom staff who have done a sterling job and continue to give us the best. Thank you very much to everybody for coming. And that's about it. Back to you, Awesome. Thank you.
Back to the president. P, please close for us. Thank you, sir.
All right. Great.
President, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I am deeply grateful to everyone who has stayed the course. This has been a very exciting and insightful presentation. It will help us to look at our mindsets and the paradigms that we are living with, and this will definitely lead to improvements in the amount of oil that we see in the nearest future, oil and gas that we see in the nearest future. I also wish to express thanks to the fellows. I saw KK Kanu, I saw Victor Agbe Davis actually is in a different time zone. He should be sleeping by now. And all the others, I think I saw Dr. Mr. Mbat Akpan earlier. Everyone who joined in today, we are all in the process of learning, relearning, and learning. So I wish you all a very good day until we come your way again sometime in the very near future. Please look at all the slate of exciting things that NAPE has ahead of you in the next few weeks. Please plug in and enjoy the benefits of being a NAPE member. I bid you a good afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, have a wonderful day, everyone, and see you on Saturday. Thank you, Tunde, Lawrence, and all experts for joining us, as well as all members.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Bosun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have
Well done. Well done, everyone. Good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.